was just past 11 p.m. when I left Tegel on my motorcycle, heading towards Surabaya. The sky was cloudy, the air thick with the promise of rain, but I wasn't too concerned. I'd traveled this road many times before, and the idea of taking a shortcut through Alas Roban seemed harmless enough. Alas Roban was infamous, a place steeped in stories of the supernatural. The dense teak forest had a reputation for being one of the most haunted spots in central Java. I had heard plenty of tales of restless spirits, mysterious accidents, and eerie encounters. But as a practical man, I dismissed most of them as mere superstition. After all, I had passed through this area several times without any incidents. The road was dark, with only my motorcycle's headlight cutting through the blackness. Occasionally, the wind would pick up, causing the branches of the massive teak trees to sway ominously. Their shadows danced across the road, creating a strange, almost hypnotic effect. I tried to focus on the road ahead, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different this time. The rain began to fall, first as a light drizzle, then heavier, turning the road slick and the air cold. The sound of raindrops hitting the leaves above and the pavement below filled the silence, creating an almost rhythmic pattern that was oddly soothing. But beneath that rhythm, I could sense something off. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, the atmosphere around me grew more oppressive. The darkness seemed to deepen, and the forest felt as if it were closing in on me. I could feel the weight of countless unseen eyes watching, waiting. But for what, I didn't know. It was then that I heard it, a low, rumbling sound, like a distant thunder. But the sky was clear, apart from the rain. The sound grew louder, and soon I realized it was coming from behind me. I glanced in my side mirror and saw a pair of headlights approaching. The lights were dim and yellowish, like those from an old vehicle. A bus, I thought. Nothing unusual. It was probably just a late-night coach heading somewhere along the same route. But as the bus drew closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The vehicle wasn't overtaking me, even though it easily could have. Instead, it stayed at a steady distance behind, matching my speed exactly. The thought crossed my mind to speed up, but I quickly dismissed it. There was no need to rush. After all, I didn't want to lose control on the slippery road. But still, the presence of the bus felt unsettling, as if it was deliberately staying behind me. The stories of Alas Roban began to creep back into my mind, stories I had once laughed off as ridiculous. But there was nothing ridiculous about the cold dread that was slowly filling my chest. Midnight came and went, and the bus remained behind me, never overtaking, never falling back. It was as if it was tethered to me, like a shadow that I couldn't shake. The rain was now pouring down in sheets, making it difficult to see more than a few meters ahead. The road twisted and turned through the forest, and with each bend, I expected the bus to finally pass me by. But it never did. Instead, it followed me like a specter, its dim lights casting eerie shadows on the wet pavement. The engine's low growl reverberated through the air, a constant reminder that it was still there, right behind me. I began to feel a rising panic. What kind of bus was this? Why was it following me so closely? I had heard the stories of ghostly apparitions on this road, but I never believed them. Now, I wasn't so sure. My heart pounded in my chest, and my hands gripped the handlebars tighter. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Against every warning I had ever heard, I turned to look back. What I saw nearly made me lose control of my motorcycle. The bus was old, incredibly old, like something out of the 1970s. Its body was rusted, and the windows were cracked or missing entirely. The headlights flickered weakly, barely illuminating the road ahead of it. And there was no driver, at least, none that I could see. Worse still, the bus was empty. Or at least, it seemed to be. In the dim light, I thought I could see dark shapes shifting inside, but I couldn't make out any details. It was as if shadows themselves had taken residence inside the bus. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just any bus. This was something else, something not of this world. I tore my gaze away and tried to focus on the road, but the image of that ghostly bus was seared into my mind. I sped up, hoping to outrun it, but the bus matched my speed, staying just a few meters behind me. It was as if it was toying with me, daring me to keep going faster. The rain blurred my vision, and the road became increasingly treacherous, but I couldn't slow down. Not with that thing right behind me. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the bus suddenly accelerated. It barreled toward me, its headlights blinding me in the darkness. I braced myself for the impact, but instead of crashing into me, the bus did something impossible. It passed right through me. For a brief, horrifying moment, I felt an icy coldness envelop me, as if I had plunged into freezing water. The world around me dimmed, and all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat, pounding in my ears. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, the feeling was gone. I opened my eyes, expecting to see the bus in front of me, but it had vanished. There was nothing but the empty road stretching out into the darkness. I pulled over to the side of the road, my heart still racing, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the forest was silent once more, but the terror of what had just happened clung to me like a second skin. I sat there for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of what I had just experienced. Had it all been a hallucination, brought on by exhaustion and the oppressive atmosphere of a last Roban? Or had I truly encountered something otherworldly? The stories I had dismissed as folklore and superstition suddenly didn't seem so far-fetched. The tales of ghostly buses, headless riders, and lost souls wandering the darkened roads came flooding back, each one more terrifying than the last. And now, I had my own story to tell, a story that I would carry with me for the rest of my life. When I finally gathered the courage to start my motorcycle again, the forest seemed even darker than before. Every shadow, every rustle of the wind in the trees, felt like a warning, a reminder that I had seen something I wasn't supposed to see. I rode on, keeping my eyes fixed on the road ahead, never once daring to look back. The journey through the rest of Alas Roban felt like an eternity, but eventually, I emerged from the forest, the first hints of dawn beginning to break on the horizon. Even now, I still can't explain what happened that night. But one thing is certain, Alas Roban is a place where the veil between worlds is thin, where the past and the present, the living and the dead, can collide in ways that defy understanding. And if you ever find yourself on that road in the middle of the night, remember this: don't look back. Because you never know what might be following behind.